What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday to you. Welcome back to the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show, the best damn betting show for mixed martial arts on the internet today. It's Friday, and that means we've taken absolutely everything throughout the week. We've done all our research. Now we've seen these fighters step on the scale. Now we've seen them face off. We know who's actually bigger. We know who's actually longer. We know who may or may not have put that extra effort into making weight. We will give all that to you right here, right now. And on top of that, there is no sharp action report this week, unfortunately. However, I do have a slight report. We've got big guy action on 2 fights this week. 2 fights with big guy action from Superbook Sports. So, unfortunately, we weren't able to put the show together for you guys here this week, but I will make sure to pass that information along to you, my viewers. Smash the like button, sub here to Pub Sports Radio if you haven't already. If you happen to be one of my audio-only listeners, rate and review. Give me 5 stars, baby. Come on, let's go. Leave a comment. Let's get right into this bad boy. First and foremost, we lost one. The most important fight on the card. It's done. It's gone. It's over. That's right. Daniel Lacerda will not be fighting on Saturday. The man is somehow 0-4-1-1 now in the UFC organization. They rebooked this bad boy. Apparently he had some sort of non-weight cutting related medical issues. I actually thought he looked really good on the scales today. I was very surprised when they said that the fight had been pulled. I guess he had like an infection in his face or something. Like, I don't know. The kid wasn't sanitary to fight. I pulled the trigger on his money line. I sprinkled that insane by decision prop because the number was wild. I was gonna add the over 1.5 at plus money. I was very, very happy to roll the dice on that kid to go a little bit longer in this fight this weekend. So personally, I'm a little bit disappointed that that fight got pulled, but there's plenty of other action. So let's get on into it. First fight of the night. Emily Ducot does take on Ashley Yoder. Both women made 115.5 pounds. You got an intense look and flex from Emily Ducot on the scale today. Ashley Yoder, on the other hand, was all giggles, all smiles, no issues for her. Big, big height advantage for Yoder. Now, we know that. We knew that coming in, right? So you've got a big minus 385, minus 390, minus 400 price tag on Emily Ducot, and that sounds like you want to throw up in your mouth just a little bit. But I think the leg kicks are going to be a massive problem for Yoder in this spot. Yoder always does her best to try to drag these fights into the grappling territory, and I think Ducot, being short and compact the way she is going to be able to defend those takedowns and keep this fight standing where she wants it, and she's just so much cleaner than Yoder is on the feet, not to mention the fact that she's actually got power. She also is incredibly quick and fast. You know, the one thing I was looking to add on this fight is I'm going to play Ducot by KO. I know Yoder's never been finished before, but it's different when you're kicking somebody in the calf from when you're punching somebody in the face. She's tough. She's been durable her whole career. That has shown signs of cracking. So I think somebody like Ducot could potentially get her out of there via TKO. That line was plus 500 when it opened up overseas at the beginning of the week. It's been hammered. It's down to plus 400 by the time it opened up over here in the US, which really frustrates me because I wanted that plus 500. I'll still play it at 4-1. I really will, but it's a little bit annoying. I don't know what's going on with the sports books. You know, I love this time of year. We've got NHL, NFL, go Yotes, season opener this evening, so got to rock the jersey. MLB playoffs is going on, so the bookies, they're not necessarily zoned in on MMA the way they were a couple months ago. Now, maybe that's good because we can find, you know, soft spots, places where they misprice stuff, and that helps us out as gamblers. But in situations like this, the props for Ducot and Yoder didn't drop until this morning. The fight is tomorrow. I'm used to having 2 or 3 days to look at this crap, and they weren't even available to me until just a couple of hours ago. So I'm frustrated with that because I could have gotten plus 500. Instead, we're going to have to settle for plus 400. I like Ducot. I think she wins this fight. I think she's a fine parlay piece. I don't like the under because I have a hard time seeing Yoder finish, quite frankly, but I do think that Ducot can get her out of there with those leg kicks, so potentially a KO situation. Next up, you've got Alatang Highy taking on Chris Gutierrez. Both men came at 136 pounds. Alatang looked good. No issues for him on the scales. I'll be honest, Chris Gutierrez looked like he was taking some quick, deep breaths, looking like he was kind of breathing a bit hard, a bit heavy. He's okay, but maybe a little bit of a rough cut. This was a really good face-off. Slight height advantage here for Gutierrez. This fight hasn't changed in my mind whatsoever since we first started looking at it. I think Alatang Highy does need to get the grappling going to really have success in this fight. Gutierrez tends to be a little bit low volume, which could lend to this fight being closer. I couldn't stomach laying minus 250 or higher on someone like Chris Gutierrez, so it's really a dog or pass betting situation. And that's what the big guy did. He came in at plus 300 over on Superbook Sports. I got the message. He let me know. And there's been a big line move. This dog price has been crashing for the last couple of days. Highy Alatang is all the way down to plus 220 now. He was plus 300 just a couple of days ago. So there's some serious love coming in here on the dog. He is a scrappy fighter. He hits hard, big left hand. He's got that wrestling ability that we talked about. I think it makes sense. He's a very live dog in this spot. I have already bet quite a few underdogs on this card. I can't quite stomach this one for some reason. I've got a feeling Chris Gutierrez finds a way to squeeze on by this one, but at the same time, you guys know I love Fight Ready. We've got Arichilung, who did great last week out. Same fight camp. They train together, partners. So he's going to come right. He's going to have a good game plan, and he's probably going to be improved. The issue I have with him is that he's always low volumed. He could just get spammed from a guy like Gutierrez, and that's why I worry. But hey, if you're getting plus 220, plus 300, plus 250, anywhere in that ballpark, you don't need to really trust the guy, right? Like, you're not laying minus 185 on somebody. You're not needing them to come through desperately in that situation. You can throw a flyer on a guy at a dog price like that. So if you want to tail the big guy, that's where his action is. I haven't made a move myself yet on this fight, but it would be dog or pass from a betting perspective. Next up, you have got Irina Alekseeva taking on Melissa Dixon. Irina came in at 135, Dixon 135 and a half. I'll be honest, it looked like Alekseeva was struggling a bit. She's huge. Now, as soon as she weighed in, she was having a good time up there. She went with the curly-headed fuck hair for some reason. I don't know what the hell's going on. She got a perm. She looked ridiculous up there with her hair the way that it was. Now, Melissa Dixon, she looked really like she was feeling good up there. It's her UFC debut, gave a big old smile, and she seemed to have no problems making weight whatsoever. Irina, again, is massive. When they face off, these two, it's just a big size difference. It's not quite as big as I expected it to be, but Alekseeva is a monster. We know that coming in here. I did end up pulling the trigger on Dixon. I think she's the cleaner grappler. I think she's going to have that grappling edge on the ground, and I know Irina Alekseeva is just kind of a brute force, and when she comes forward, she's going to be looking to kill. This is a spot where Dixon, I think, will be able to take advantage of those sloppy exchanges with the grappling, and Alekseeva has shown that she's more than okay with engaging in that type of a grappling fight. The thing I'm looking at here is that sub prop. You can get Dixon at sub plus 900, which is insane. I think it was plus 600 overseas. This is what I'm talking about. When I break these fights down on Monday, you never know what the numbers are book to book. And it was plus 600, I want to say, at Bet Online. And then when they opened it up here at DraftKings or at FanDuel, she's all the way up in the plus 900 ballpark. That's insane to me. She is the better grappler. I know Irina Alekseeva is the one who came to the UFC, won via knee bar. Everyone thinks she's the submission artist here. I promise you, if Dixon gets her back, she's going to lock up a rear naked choke. So I really think Dixon on that sub prop deserves a sprinkle. I haven't added it yet. I'm going to, especially since I got refunded my Daniel Lacerda money. But we like the favorite here in this spot. She might lose round one, and it might be a live betting opportunity, but I decided since I'm not overly familiar with her, it is her UFC debut, I just went ahead and laid the chalk. I talked about how game plan wise, you probably want to wait, let her lose that first round, get some plus money going into round two, and then trust her to fight her way back into this one. But that really bit me in the ass with Bobby Green now, didn't it? I didn't play the money line on Bobby, who I was planning on jumping in partway through the fight as he started to take over. Never got the chance. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay the minus 148. It's a short price tag here for a favorite, so I don't mind. We'll go ahead and get involved and see what happens. Next up, you have got Brandon Marlotte taking on Terrence McKinney, 155.5 for both gentlemen. Big flex from Brandon. Look good on the scales. No comparison here for me. Haven't seen him before, obviously, so he looked good. No complaints. Terrence very confident in himself. Gave his usual one-arm flex, looking like nothing in the world could phase him here in this spot. Terrence has a huge height advantage. This was a very intense face-off. I can't get my brain around Terrence McKinney being a 500 favorite. I can't get him. Minus 550 just doesn't do anything for me here, okay? We know he's round one or bust. We know he can knock anybody out. We know he can out-wrestle people. We know he's got submissions, but I can't lay that price tag on a guy that will die after 7 minutes if it doesn't go his way. So this is a perfect live betting opportunity. Jump in on Brendan. If you see Terrence McKinney start to fade, if it looks like he's not able to get the wrestling going, then you see this guy kind of collapse in on himself. I wouldn't mind round two, round three sprinkles on Brendan, just like on principle. Just every time Terrence McKinney fights, bet the other guy round 2, round 3, because I think long-term that seems to have done pretty well for you. I do think Terrence probably hurts this guy and then has to resort to the grappling. I'm thinking submission here myself, but the bookies, they're not helping you out whatsoever here. You got even money plus 100 for a KO and like plus 140 for a sub. It's gross. It's disgusting. They're like, no. We know what this guy does, and we're not going to give you an angle whatsoever. It used to be that we could flip the script, and whenever they think it's one, just bet the other and get a nice number. Those days are gone. They've rigged the game now. So you got to pick your poison. You're only getting just better than even money. I'm going to say round 1 sub for Terrence McKinney. I think you can get a decent number if you do the round 1 sub as opposed to just the sub. But again, I think Marat is somebody that we can maybe take a look at live if Terrence isn't able to get him out of there or handle him immediately. Next up, you've got Tzenara Lisboa taking on Ravena Oliveira. Lisboa came in at 133.5, 133 on the dot for Oliveira, which is weird. I feel like the scale must have been messed up or something, because for both of them to come in 2 pounds under and both them be at 133 instead of 135, I kind of feel like something was off in that situation. Anyway, just a weird thing. Lisboa looked good. Kissed her elbow. Like, yeah, she's a Muay Thai girl, so you know she's going to come in looking for knees and elbows in this spot. Oliveira, she gave a good flex. She was all smiles up there today. She definitely is another one of these Brazilian cuties who absolutely is a terrifying monster. As soon as the cage door shuts, I love it. I can't get enough of that. This was a good stare down. Lisboa came in super close. Ravena didn't look distracted at all. She was just kind of smiling at her and having a good time with it. So you've got a slight size advantage here for Lisboa, which is to be expected. I did take the plunge here, folks. I bet on Ravena. I bet the money line. I got plus 280 earlier in the week. And then the more I looked into this, the more I looked at it, I was just like, this doesn't make sense. This just doesn't make sense to me. You've got a girl in Lisboa who people thought nothing of. I mean, you look at like the Tapology numbers, and everyone was counting her out against Jessica Rose Clark, somebody who's been on the downslide and we knew was going to get dropped from the UFC. And she went life and death with Jessica Rose Clark. She was the underdog to Jessica Rose Clark. And she does manage to get a 3rd round submission in that fight, but she gave up 7 minutes of control time. Jessica Rose Clark was able to do pretty much anything she wanted, and she busted her up too. Lisboa did not escape from that fight without having some damage on her. She was bleeding, I think, by the 2nd round in that fight. And Jessie just doesn't really do that to anybody who's UFC caliber. She's 32 years old, she's 5-2, and now the UFC is bringing in an undefeated young thing from Brazil who knows how to work her Instagram page. I think one of these two is a real prospect, and the other one just kind of found her way here. I think this fight is a whole lot closer than people are giving it credit for. I added another unit on the money line here for Ravena. I know that's maybe a bit bold on somebody who's like a plus 280 underdog. That number's come down a little bit. She's about plus 270, plus 260 now, wherever you might be able to find her. But the thing I did was I sprinkled half unit shot on the sub prop. 18-1. I know. I'm a madman. I'm insane. I'm going for it. I think what we see here is she submitted a UFC caliber fighter and everyone thinks she's got the grappling edge. She's not. She's a Muay Thai girl who has just a little bit enough of a grappling skill set to be able to take advantage of somebody who's gotten submitted at this level in every single fight she's ever been in. So her submitting Jessica Rose Clark doesn't mean jack to me, but she's taking on a purple belt, a younger purple belt who is hungrier, who is rising, who's being given an opportunity by the UFC. And if Oliveira has anywhere near the amount of time of control that Jessica Rose Clark had in their fight, I think she's going to be looking for ground and pound. She's going to have opportunities to grab necks. I think it's there. So this fight should be entertaining. It should be violent. And I think if Oliveira has an opportunity to get to mount or takes the back or something along those lines, the choke could be there. I also sprinkled just little 0.1 unit shots on this. The round 2 and round 3 subs specifically for Oliveira. It's 45-1 and 60-1. Couldn't help myself, because if the sub is going to hit, do I really think it's coming early? No, I think that Oliveira is going to bully Lisboa up against the cage. I think she's going to have to tank some damage and then hit a double leg on her, drag her to the floor. She's very physical. I think this is a fight that's going to take Lisboa being broken down before anything like that happens. If anything, I think the finish comes in round 2 or round 3. So if you're saying sub, which I think is more likely than the number already, and then in the rounds where I think it probably happens, and I'm getting 45 and 60-1, how could I not? I had to. So my hands are tied. I've already got money on the money line, and I had to go for that sub prop, and I had to go for glory with the round 2 and round 3 sprinkles. Come on, Ravenna, bring it home for me, baby. Let's go. Next up, you've got TJ Brown taking on Darren the Damage. Elkins. TJ Brown 146, matching Elkins 146 on the scale today as well. TJ Brown, honestly, looked like he was struggling. He looked like he was having a tough time up there. And this is just like facial expression. Now, as soon as they called his weight, big smile, it all goes away. But it was tedious before they called his weight. Like, he really looked like he was about to get grounded up there. Darren Elkins, classic Elkins. Dude looks like a bag of milk, no problem. He's turning 40 in a week or so. Or not, sorry, he's 39 years old. I'm not sure when his birthday is. he's gonna spoil. That bag of milk is about to go bad on us here and get all lumpy. Now, these guys size up actually really well. Elkins is slightly bigger. Obviously, TJ's more athletic. He's thicker. He's got all that muscle on him. The thing that was really interesting on this one, TJ limped on and off the scale. There's something wrong with TJ's leg. Now, I know that we have got Elkins, who's at the very late stages of his career, talked about wanting to retire before he turns 40. So realistically, he's only got 1 or 2 fights left in him. God forbid, I don't want to say the R word, this could be that last fight of his. But he's taking on a fighter who he's got a big time cardio and grappling advantage over, in my opinion. While TJ may be the more talented fighter, he may be the more technical and skilled fighter, he's definitely the more explosive of the two. If he's on one leg and he already can't stop takedowns in the UFC, how the hell is he supposed to ever defend a double leg from Darren Elkins? I just don't see it happening. And on top of that, if he's compromised, is his cardio where it needs to be? Is he going to be able to throw with the kind of power he needs to? Can he plant on that leg to throw the punch the way that he needs to end someone like Elkins, who's been very durable over the course of his career? I already bet Darren Elkins. I bet him at plus 170. I got him much earlier in the week, and that was before spotting this leg issue here on TJ. Go back and watch. I'm not making this up. You watch him walk onto the scale. You watch him walk away from Darren Elkins on the face-offs. There's absolutely a gimp in his leg this week. I would be tempted to add more for not one, but 2 reasons. You know, the injury, obviously, what I think we're seeing here on TJ. And also, this is number 2, folks. The big guy at Superbook came in on Darren Elkins. And now let me tell you something. I have noticed that when the big guy and I end up on the same side, without any prior communications, right? Like if I hear the big guy's on a spot and I jump in too, that's one thing. But when I bet something and then find out later, oh, he bet it too, we hit at a pretty high rate. Now, this is risky as hell because we've got a 39-year-old fighter who relies on being able to tank damage to be able to pull this win off. But I really think Elkins is the side at plus money this week. And TJ Brown is a guy that I simply cannot trust, cannot wrap my brain around, and him being this big of a favorite over anybody really is folly. If he's able to just one-punch Elkins, then good on you. Like, congratulations, you got it done. But if he doesn't one-punch Elkins, I don't see anywhere else where he wins the fight. He'll end up on bottom in scrambles. He'll not be able to match the cardio. Elkins is going to be the guy that takes over this fight the deeper it goes. So I'm one last time going to war with Darren the Damage Elkins. Let's freaking go, baby. Beat a nice little line move on that one, too. Next up, you got C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez taking on Saaiman. This is where it gets interesting. C-Rod missed weight today. This will be the 3rd time under the UFC banner that my boy has missed weight. 1 on Contender Series, 1 in his fight against Raul Rosas Jr., and now against Saaiman. I don't know if maybe he's just... I thought he maybe was too big for this weight class, but that's not apparent when you see him face off against Saaiman. Something's got to be off on his weight cut. Like, he just doesn't have it down to a science yet or something like that. Wonder if they're going to make him move up for his next fight, though, because with multiple weight misses, usually they try to kind of kill you and punish you after that point. But he didn't look sucked out. That's the thing. He did not look at all sucked out. In fact, physically, he looked fantastic. He looked like he was in great shape. He was well chiseled. Muscles were doing good. Looks like he had his camp over at Fight Ready, and they do things to people. Saaiman, very relaxed. No issues whatsoever. Gave a good big flex. He looked fantastic on the scales today. And he had that size advantage that we talked about. Now, I'm terrified. I will be honest with you guys. Completely terrified. My biggest bet of the year is Christian Rodriguez this week. I'm on C-Rod. I waited until it dipped down to minus 130. That was as low as it ever got. I jumped in. I got the good number. It's headed back up the other direction. And this kind of a weight miss always makes me question, right? Like, you guys know me. I like to try to bet against people that are having mental hurdles, that are not able to get to the cage, that get beaten by the scale. Like, we've talked about this time and time again. I bet against those guys. The thing is, I don't know if Christian Rodriguez really lost on this one, right? Like, he might just be too big. We honestly might just have a weight bully situation on our hands. He performed amazingly against Raul Rosas Jr. He missed weight that fight too. So I'm not worried at all about his heart. I'm not worried about his cardio. I'm not worried about his decision making or his skill set. I'm worried about him being sick. I'm worried about him having eaten a bad taco and that thing sitting in his stomach festering and messing with him on fight day. Like, I just hope he's okay. Because if C-Rod is 100% and maybe he just miscalculated, maybe he started cutting too late, maybe he just had a tough weight cut, and if that's the case, this is an advantage. This is a positive. Now we're getting the guy who probably needs to move up a weight class at a weight advantage against somebody who we think he can out-grapple. So I'm just going to diamond hands this. I'm going to hang on. I'm going to let my bet ride. You don't make a bet that big and then not be confident about it at the first opportunity to tuck and run. I have 6.5 units on the money line at minus 130, so that number is gone. And then I've got a half unit C-Rod by sub at plus 400. That's just the little icing on the cake because the money line obviously is the big hitter here. As long as he comes through one way or the other, I'm good. If he happens to land the sub, now I'm doing cartwheels. That's what we're looking for here in this spot. I think C-Rod is the real prospect. I think he's better everywhere than Cameron Saaiman is. The difference is whether or not he's healthy coming into this fight. He gave up 25% of his purse here, so I hope that's extra motivation for him to get in there and win so that he can get back in the UFC's good graces. Hopefully, spectacularly. I don't blame anybody who wants to cash out. If you tailed me earlier in the week and you're worried about that weight cut and you want to cash out or you want to hedge part of it off, that's not necessarily a bad idea. Don't do every single little thing I say. I'm diamond handsing. I'm riding with C-Rod this week, and I'm praying he still gets it done for me. Next up, Michel Pereira takes on Andre Petroski. Both guys came in at 186 pounds. Pereira is massive. My God. We always talk about this guy, but he's fighting up at 185 this weekend instead of cutting down to 170. And I guess he used to cut like 45 pounds or something. We talked about it. Every single time this guy fought, I talked about how I have no idea how he makes 170. He needs to get with C-Rod. His coaches need to have a conversation with C-Rod because if that man can work his way all the way down to 170, I'm pretty sure C-Rod can make 135. Anyway, Andre Petroski, he is jacked. My God, this guy is so filled out. He looks like your friendly neighborhood lumberjack. Like, if you imagine a lumberjack in your head, that's this guy. So when they face off, it's incredible. Michel Pereira coming up a weight class is still the bigger man, and he looks so much more full, so much healthier. He's not slimmed down. He's not sucked out. He's not cut all the way down. He's got some fluff in his muscles. He's got some puff. He's got some, you can see the water in his body. I think he's going to be a whole lot healthier coming into this fight. They opened this line minus 110, and it got smoked on the Michel Pereira side. I was not quick enough. I didn't get any of that juicy minus 110 action. And now you've got Pereira sitting at a minus 205. You know, I've tried to fade Andre Petroski many a time, and he keeps making me look a fool. So if I could have gotten the minus 125, the minus 140, the minus 150, maybe I would be here on Michel Pereira. Maybe I would jump in here on this spot. However, I can't. So because I missed all those good money line numbers, I think I'm just going to let this one go. I don't want to bet against Andre Petroski at a 2-to-1 clip and then have this guy just make me cry again and ruin my afternoon. So I'm going to be picking Michel Pereira as my fighter here in this spot. I do think he wins, and in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he's quicker, if he's stronger, if he's faster, because he's got all that extra weight on him, if he doesn't have to watch his cardio, and I wouldn't be surprised if he finished Andre Petroski in this fight, quite frankly, but we need to wait and see how this one plays out. I wouldn't be opposed to betting like an under in this spot, because Petroski obviously has those submission chops. We've seen him get on top of people and choke them unconscious. That's absolutely something that could happen here in this spot, so I would pick Pereira, but I think under is probably the bet if you're not going to pick a money line side here. Next up, you've got Jonathan Martinez and Adrian Yanez. 136 for Martinez, 135.5 for Yanez. Neither of these guys had any problem on the scales today. This was a very friendly face-off, and they size up really well. This is a great fight. I mean, it's pick 'em for a reason. It's been bouncing back and forth where it'll tug a war, minus 115, minus 105, and then flip back the other way. People are on both sides. People are very, very adamant on both sides. They have good arguments for both fighters, and I think both sides can be defensible. Both sides make sense. This is one of those ones where if you don't want to flip this coin, you just don't have to. I'm going to pick Adrian Yanez. I think he bounces back in this spot. I think the hand speed, I think him crashing the pocket, crowding the kicker is really going to be what does it here in this spot. Jonathan Martinez is extremely defensively sound. He's a guy that likes to keep his opponents at range, and if he can't do that, he struggles in the pocket sometimes, and that's where I think Yanez with that power and that hand speed is going to cause him some issues. I'm picking Yanez. I think Yanez returns to form by KO here in this spot, but I don't want to disrespect Jonathan Martinez. He's very much in this fight. He's very much a prospect. He's a guy that could catapult himself with a win over Yanez in this spot. So lean Yanez. Probably not going to bet it, and then just going to kind of let it sail, but we'll pick Yanez for the win to bounce back here. Viviane Araújo takes on Jennifer Maia in your co-main event. Araújo 126, Maia 125. Confident smile from Viviane. Huge flex. Very shredded when she was up there on the scales today. Looking like she's feeling herself up there. Jennifer Maia, on the other hand, sucked out cheeks as always. She's just got one of those blocky square faces where like her cheekbones and like right in here it gets like super thinned out when she cuts weight. And honestly, she looks like a serial killer every time she smiles and flexes on the scales. You should go look up a picture of Jennifer Maia smiling after weigh-ins because it's terrifying. These two face up very well. Vivi actually has a decent size advantage here in this spot. And folks, I've been staring at this one basically all week. The world, everybody I know is all over Jennifer Maia in this spot. And I've leaned dog or pass basically all week. It's funny, a buddy of mine, someone who I very much respect, said he felt like I was chasing a dog in this spot. And I was like, bro, I hate when people say that. Like, first off, I'm not chasing anything. Secondly, if I was going to actually chase like an underdog price tag, that would be like my bet on Ravena Oliveira, for instance, where I'm getting plus 280, plus 300. That's chasing a dog. When she's plus 130, and I think that she could be the minus 125 favorite, like, that's not chasing a dog. Like, I just disagree with everybody else in their breakdowns. I think that the wrestling is going to be there for Vivi. I think Maia has a tendency of playing jiu-jitsu off of her back, and she also mirrors her opponents sometimes. So if Vivi doesn't go high pace with her, Jennifer Maia is probably not going to pull away in the striking because she'll probably match the pace of her opponent. We've seen it time and time again. This fight's going to play out close. I wouldn't be surprised if this was a split decision, and in fact, the split decision prop on DK is plus 330. I don't think that's a bad bet whatsoever because this thing probably plays out close and it probably goes all 15. I have a hard time seeing either of these ladies finish each other. They've both been so tough, so gritty, so durable. I like Vivi here. I may still get to the window with a bet on her in this fight, and I like her by decision. Main event time, you've got Sodiq Yusuff, who came in at 145.5. Edson Barboza made 146. Sodiq was relaxed, absolutely jacked, looked good, no problem on the scales today. Edson Barboza, one of the two men who helped me coin the term the Brazilian balloon, just absolutely shredded, so sucked out, it looks incredibly painful. I have no idea how he gets to this state. He was basically limping his way to the scales today, like the man just has nothing left in his body, obviously jacked as all hell, and then he inflates for fight night. When they face off, Barboza's got the height advantage. Yusuff actually looks thicker than Edson Barboza in this spot, which I think might be a reasonable point here because Barboza's always got the bigger frame when he cuts down to this weight class. So having Yusuff be thicker, even though he is the shorter guy, usually that's expected. Still kind of impressive considering who he's going up against here. I am picking Sodiq Yusuff here in this spot, but I can't get my brain around the price tag. We've seen the guy get clipped just way too many times. I do not trust his chin. He did the stank leg in his last fight. He wobbled twice in that fight, actually. And that's something where I'm like, look, Edson Barboza right now is surviving off of these Quiplash type of explosive Quiplash. Geez, that's the iPhone game. Whiplash. These whipping attacks that come out of nowhere, these explosions. That's how he's catching these guys and staying relevant right now. I think he's in the death throes of his career. He's going to have one or two more of these spots, but somebody like Sodiq who's going to stand right in front of him and has a questionable chin, those are exactly the kind of guys that I think Edson Barboza might be able to catch still. So I'm probably passing on this main event. I'm going to pick Sodiq Yusuff, but I think there's better spots on the card for me to put my money. That is the Undefeated Post Weigh-In Show, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. Do me a favor and hit the like button. Good luck on all your degenerate action tomorrow. Go Yotes! And we'll see you tomorrow for the live show. Pop on over to Pub Sports Radio. They'll be doing the live bet cast tomorrow during the fights if you want something to tag along with. And I hope you guys just crush it. I'm taking some shots this weekend. We are hoping to have a miraculous, big-time week. I'm hoping to wash away the last couple weeks of mediocrity that I've had here at UFC Vegas 81. We'll see what happens. Good luck, and let's roll.